What's up, everybody? Eric Kummel here with Mark Horner for another episode of Get Boosted on Shot Callers Esports. And Mark's rocking the SKT jacket because they 2-0'd KSV, got their vengeance.
They did it. Blossom, this one's for you, buddy. Wearing the jacket. Way to go. Good work, SKT. Climbing back in. 3-5.
Wow.
We're maybe going to make playoffs. Who knows?
It's 500. You can smell 500 just around the corner.
This is uncharted territory being an SKT fan and feeling good at 3-5. But hey, take what we get.
It is insane that you basically win. You win 2 series in a row and people are like, oh my God, I'm scared of this team all of a sudden.
Yeah, but there's maybe a reason for that. That 1v1 Faker outplay in the mid lane, Galio and Cassiopeia, that's the type of things that make you say, that's SKT. They're back, baby. They're back.
I mean, Faker was always playing well. It was just the rest of the team. But we'll see what's going forward with them. There was plenty of LCS action over the weekend. Some really nice marquee matchups over in North America. And Team Liquid, after they had their tough week 3, that wasn't tough at all. They had some real tests in
This
Echo
was the
Fox
tough week.
And Cloud9. This was the tough week in week 4. And they didn't do too well.
No.
Breaking down their first game of the week was against Cloud9, and Cloud9 absolutely dismantled them.
Yeah, this was a game, and I had it coming into this week as we looked at the marquee matchups. I thought this was the week. This is the week that TL is going to finally give us that answer and say that they are an elite top team. They should be there, and we got the exact opposite result. C9 is the team that has proven themselves to be the absolute top in the NALCS so far throughout 4 weeks. And this game was a great example of it. Licorice, oh my dear, he was popping off, absolutely spanked Impact. Impact tilted off the face of this earth. It was an incredible performance from Cloud9 and just one
What a story for Licorice, man.
Right, exactly.
The guy he replaced in Impact, he completely bodies him in lane. Yeah, he got some attention from Smoothie, but just everyone thought it was going to be a huge downgrade, and Licorice continues to prove that he's a real deal.
Yeah, and not only Licorice popping off, Jensen absolutely clapped Pobelter. And this was a guy, Pobelter, that we had been praising and saying, it looks like he's finally shown that he's gonna, climb into this top tier of NA mid laners, and Jensen says, not so fast. I'm still here, buddy. Claps him with the corky, just absolutely putting out the damage. Cloud9 did a great job, and one thing that I actually really liked seeing is Svenskeren on that Skarner. It seemed that we saw a lot more Skarner this weekend that we were calling for, and kind of the only guy to make Skarner actually look impressive and do good things with him was Svenskeren. There were other guys playing him, Lyra for one, that just totally non-existent type of impact.
Yikes.
Svenskeren was having the type of impact that you want to have from the Skarner, helping his team fill out that composition. Really impressed with how Cloud9 took it to Team Liquid in one of their matches, and then throughout the rest of that week, Cloud9 really solidifying themselves at the top of North America.
Yeah, and you heard Jensen talking about it in an interview with Travis, saying he thought Liquid just played that match poorly. They had a stronger early game comp. Cloud9 was expecting to be at a deficit heading into the mid to late game, and they just didn't. Yeah. Liquid didn't capitalize on anything. Jensen was able to just farm up. He had some insane CS numbers on that Corki, and eventually he just got super fed that he's two-shotting people.
And that's the thing, right? When you look at that composition and what TL had decided into, you're looking at mid lane Pobelter on the Taliyah, and you're just like, okay, he's gonna have to. You just have to out-roam the Corki and impact the map before Corki scales up, and that never happened. Corki scaled up and was two-shotting people, Jensen clapping. Game over. It was as simple as that for Cloud9.
Jensen clapping, it gets scary. But Liquid had a chance for some redemption to save their week in their second match against Echo Fox. And it was a much closer affair, much more back and forth. But again, they drop another one, and eventually it swinged pretty heavily into Echo Fox's favor.
Yeah, this is one where you thought that Team Liquid definitely a much better performance overall. And as you talk about, again, everyone talks communication and synergy. This was a match where Team Liquid has actually been very good at communicating, and we just didn't see it in this one. This was one of the times that it just actually has backfired for them. We just saw that clip there where they had a whole team fight, and Doublelift is on the Kog'Maw with his W active, just fighting across the wall. Well, as soon as that W passes out, he's out of attack range and has to spend the whole team fight walking all the way back around, just not on the same page as the rest of his team, and who was Echo Fox. Echo Fox really took down their objectives, and their map play was a lot stronger than we had probably seen in earlier weeks where, you know, they had been going up and falling behind teams before they were able to get their victories. This one was definitely one where I thought they were on the same page and following their aggressive play styles. And hey, we're gonna really have to start looking at Zach here. This Dardoch Blob squad going on here.
You gotta ban that, man.
It's gonna have to be banned because he's really having the impact that you wanna be having for your team and executing on that win condition of the Zach. And it's definitely something that has helped Echo Fox pick up some wins. Teams should really start looking at banning out the Blob dude.
Yeah, and Echo Fox was pretty much just picking all the skirmishes, all the fights in this game. It was happening on their terms, and that's why they're coming ahead in a lot of these fights. And I was surprised there seemed to be a bit of miscommunication in a lot of these team fights for Team Liquid. You saw in some of those clips, Pobelter was porting behind the Echo Fox team by himself.
A lot of questions.
Turns into a 1v3, and then, yeah, Doublelift kind of on the outskirts getting zoned out, just doing 0 damage in a team fight, which is surprising because these guys seemed so on the same wavelength in the first couple of weeks. So it was a little surprising that they dropped 0-2.
Definitely some concerns coming out of this week with Team Liquid. Again, this was the week that everybody wanted and said, hey, put Steve's big old cash money right where your mouth is and answer the calls and beat these top level teams. And they didn't. I thought they would. A lot of other people did as well, and they just were not able to perform up to the level needed to beat these teams. Now, does that mean that Team Liquid is the team that won't be able to best these teams again later into the season or even into the playoffs? I don't think so. I think that this is still a very strong team that is going to continue to get better as they have with everyone else. But I think that this is a sign for some concern that there are issues with this team and there are some times where you can have players underperforming. And I think one specific one that would really have to be looked at was Impact. Impact was arguably very tilted in his matchup against Licorice and was absolutely throttled there. And that continued on into the next day where he was just handled by, a tough opponent in Huni in the top lane, but he was still handled very easily. And that is definitely something that was a weakness for TL this weekend and something that they must address if they want to be one of these top level teams.
And listen, TSM over the years, they've brought in some insane free agent guys, obviously starting with Bjergsen and just an endless cycle of guys coming in. But C9 has been grooming a lot of this talent. You look at a guy like Contracts, comes onto the scene and gets into contention as being one of the best junglers in NA. I know it's still very early in Licorice's career, but I mean, he has played like one of the best top laners.
Absolutely.
So,
and this
shout outs to Jack.
Yeah, Jack absolutely spotting the talent, picking him up. And this is a guy that a lot of coaches in NA were talking about that, he might not be the carry that everyone's expecting. Well, he kind of has been the carry, and he's showing up for it, and that's definitely a great sign for Cloud9, because this is someone that you had, when you picked him up, you hoped could develop into a carry, right? To be someone, along the lines of a Hanser, right? That NA talent developed in that top lane and can hold his own. And you know what? I think Licorice is far ahead of track and really proving himself that he might already be up there and ready.
Usually, TSM CLG, that's the first game you want to talk about after
the
a
rivalry,
weekend.
Big time.
The rivalry part 2,700, however many times these teams have played. But it's third. And you got 2 middle-of-the-pack teams that have been going through so far. But it was still an interesting game. But, I mean, TSM looked pretty in control for most of it.
Yeah, definitely an interesting game if you're a TSM fan. If you were CLG hoping to see this one come out on the other side, you left with a lot of frustrations. Not the best execution from CLG. A lot of team fights like this one here where CLG actually initiates and picks up the first blood of the game, but TSM sticks out around later into it, and then absolutely right there, that's what I want to talk about. Mike Young stuck it out, communicated with the team, and then popped right back into that fight at an explosive moment to help swing it around. After a very poor and uncharacteristically poor performance from Mike Young against Clutch Gaming, he definitely rebounded a lot stronger against CLG, and the map awareness and objective control was a lot stronger for TSM in this matchup, which
Couldn't
I think
be
went
worse.
Yeah, yeah, you're very right about that one. But I think the problem was a lot of people were kind of, again, like the community can be, flaming Mike Young for those missed smites and everything like that, and they forget that, it's not because he's a bad player that he missed those smite. It's, you know, maybe a lapse in judgment, all these little things that happen that can go to it, and these type of things happen. But this type of bounce back performance is, if I'm TSM, exactly what you needed to see, not only from the rest of the squad, but specifically from Mike Young, to help you feel confident and to really understand and to be a believer of that the progress is being made of this team. And the synergy, hey, synergy right there, not good. Mike Young putting his hand in for the team thing, and they're not going to do the team TSM chant on the hands in. That is the only bad synergy from that day against CLG.
I mean, clearly the other members on TSM don't like Mike Young. They don't want to touch his hand. Read into that how you want, guys. But I mean, this team is in some serious turmoil right now. The revenge tour stops for Biofrost. Doesn't get revenge on his former squad for cutting him.
Wild Turtle picked up the win for FlyQuest against against TSM. Doublelift picks up the win against TSM.
Yep.
Sorry, Biofrost, no dice.
We're waiting for Sven Skaren.
We'll see it this weekend, coming up.
His revenge on TSM. But for CLG, I mean, I was riding high after their 2-0 week last week, but coming into this one, they drop a game to Optic. They drop a game to TSM, only Optic's second win on the season. And just like that, CLG is not looking great. Something we didn't even talk about in that matchup was the Fiora mid for Huhi. That is something we've seen him play last year and throughout his career. I guess it's a counter pick to Galio or a Huhi counter pick to Galio. But I mean, with that CLG comp, you're kind of set up for a 1-3-1 with the Vlad and Fiora. But if you look at that comp that they have, they'd be sending the 3 mid, Sejuani, Kalista, Alistair. What are you supposed to do with that in the mid lane as 3 guys?
I don't know. I can't help you because that just is so puzzling what you'd ever accomplish with those 3 in that type of composition. And then even talking about, you know, Huhi's Fiora, it did okay. It did fine. It
was 1v1ing
Hanser. Hanser was inting, no problem, get rid of the gangplank. But other than that, it did nothing, and you did nothing when you had the opportunities to split push. There's just so many moments that I could remember of TSM just pushing it, you know, 4-man down mid lane, getting the tier 2 mid lane, or starting to get the inhibitor mid turret, while Huhi's off just managing the side lane for the tier 2 bottom turret. Not good trades and just not efficient enough. I think right now in the meta, only certain teams will be able to accomplish certain split push compositions. And this was definitely one where it's like you had the smallest of chances of being able to get that win condition off, given what you had in the 3-man push in the mid, just was never going to come to fruition for CLG, and it didn't.
Yeah, there's questionable drafting there. But now TSM, the last 18 times they've played CLG, they've won 16 of them. And CLG has 2 wins!
And this was a big one, and Tonser even talked about it, that, you know what, yeah, this is a rivalry. Doesn't really feel like it. Feels very one-sided.
16 of 18.
Hasn't felt like a rivalry since CLG took down TSM at Madison Square Gardens. Has not felt the same. Would love to see this rivalry return with a little bit more fire and CLG doing better. But until then, TSM's taking the cake.
Got to win to be a rivalry. It's power rankings time.
Let's do it.
That's what we're here for.
Crack
That's what
it
we
open.
want to see. Make sure you are sending your questions throughout the show, by the way, because we'll be answering them at the end. But let's start in NA, because we were just talking about it, and there is some definite movement around the entire board. We got a new person in first place, and something we didn't even talk about is the Golden Guardians got to win.
Way to go, Golden Guardians. Welcome to the NA LCS, picking up your win. You're a real franchise now.
They're still 10th, but you got to win. So you got a 1 on there. So
you can't put the cart in front of the horse. You got to pick up that 1 win. Start building it up, baby.
Congratulations.
They're just going to rock the Alawi top lane all the way to finals.
That was pretty nasty. Lolo looked good on that. Congrats to High and the boys on their first win. But you're still 10th. Former team of High, Cloud9 coming in that top spot after a dominant win over Liquid. They actually struggled more with FlyQuest, but FlyQuest looked pretty good. But Cloud9 moves up 2 spots into that top spot. Echo Fox stays put at second.
Yeah, and I think that you can't argue with these 2 spots. These definitely have to be the 2 teams that you're putting up at top. And I think when you talk about them, Cloud9, for me, has to be the one that you're just edging out from what we've seen of them. Their actual production has been arguably the most dominant and clean games as a whole
Even though Echo Fox beat Cloud9.
Right, even though Echo Fox and Echo Fox and teams like Team Liquid have smashed and have some of the shortest game times, I think as a whole, Cloud9 has been more impressive in the way that they've handled their victories and things like that. And even through the criticism that people have given to them, such as even their own coach saying that they play a little bit dumb sometimes. Well, guess what? That dumb play is working because they're talented enough to pull off these huge team fights. That's what I really want to get to. This Cloud9 team somehow is absolutely on top of all these team fights, and they're the ones coming out on top. It's definitely an impressive way to start, and hey, right up at the top of our power rankings.
Liquid, even though they had an 0-2 week based on previous weeks, how solid they've looked, slot them in at number 3 with a 5-3 record. TSM continues their slow, steady climb. They should have beat Clutch if you could outsmite an Ezreal Q.
Yeah,
but,
if it wasn't for Apollo and it wasn't for some questionable thinking from Mike Young, as we said, it happens. It happens. You blow it off, get to the next match, get ready to smite it and not lose out there. But those were some rough match there for TSM against Clutch Gaming to give away after that level 1 the advantages you had. But TSM has shown their improvements, and they are continuing to make strides in ironing out their communication issues, and definitely a team that is getting stronger, and you have to start thinking that they're going to be making this push towards the playoffs where anything can happen. Clutch Gaming has shown, I think, in this past week that it isn't all just the Febivin show. Yes, it has to be Febivin performing and being the main guy for them, as we've seen, but other people can step up, and surely it was not Lyra on the Skarner stepping up, it was Apollo on the Ezreal stepping up. Really great performance this week from him, and I think that Clutch Gaming can improve as a whole, improve themselves as a playoff team as we approach this halfway point in the season. And then as you last look into kind of this mid-range pack, I think FlyQuest for me has to be that team that might secure that last playoff spot. I think especially with Fly in the mid lane, and if they can rock Anda in the jungle, I think that is their best.
Shrimp, man.
Yeah, Shrimp, sorry, you're out of here, buddy. No more Shrimp Cocktail, Gonzo. FlyQuest definitely with that roster of Fly and Anda, I think is the optimal one to go with, and I think that they will have enough strength to get into the playoffs.
CLG, we probably got on a stop too early on that hype train after their 2-0 week. I mean, they beat Echo Fox. They looked pretty solid in that game, 2-0 that week. And then this week, it's CLG, it's counter logic. They get crushed by 2 teams. I mean, TSM, that's a fair loss, but they were destroyed. Not destroyed. They lost to Optic.
Yeah, they were quite, I mean, in that loss to Optic was a pretty clear win for Optic Gaming, and then even again, that matchup against TSM was
one-sided.
Was certainly not in doubt from the Team Solo mid side, so questions coming for Counter Logic Gaming, who we had thought were on the up. And again, this is a team that coming into this year, people had a lot of expectations for, possibly making it into finals, things like that. And because a lot of people thought that they would figure out their shot calling and the team play, the mechanical skill upgrades that they had made would be there. Hasn't worked out so far for Counter Logic Gaming. I think they will need more time, possibly even this entire split to iron things out and figure it out. Maybe look for them to have a better summer, but so far they're finding themselves into the bottom tier of our power rankings.
Number 8, this is where people will lose their minds because it's 100 Thieves. Yes, they have a 4-4 record. That is in fact worse than a 3-5 record of FlyQuest and CLG. But when you lose to the Golden Guardians and give them their first win of the split, you know you're gonna get knocked down a peg on the standings. They also dropped a game to FlyQuest, who was below them in the standings. And even going back to last week, the only win they got was against Clutch in a 50-plus minute game that they should have lost.
Right.
But Clutch through that game. I think it's the first 2 weeks, 100 Thieves look great, but since week 3, they have not looked good at all.
Right, and I think that's where we talked about, that teams might actually find some success in the very early parts of the split is just purely based off of preparation. And I think that's what we saw with 100 Thieves. They prepared very well and they knew exactly how they wanted to play out the entire match. And when things worked out like that, great, they picked up wins. But so far right now, we are starting to see this regression, and we're starting to see other teams in the NALCS, pick up on what they've seen in the VODs that they're able to review of 100 Thieves. And I mean, hey, other than those fire jerseys, not looking so great for the 100 Thieves, not some good performances in the last 2 weeks. You're gonna have to really start questioning them because, you're looking in that bot lane, and I remember hearing an interview of Cody's son saying, hey, playing with Aphromoo is great. It's like playing with a get-out-of-jail-free card. Only problem is Cody is needing to cash in that get out of jail free card almost every minute. So it's just not good enough, not a good enough performance from him in the bot lane, especially now where you need that carry to perform.
There's only 2 get out of jail free cards in the decks in Monopoly, man. There's a community chest one and a chance one. You can only use 2 a game.
Yeah, and even with the Afro Moose special giving you that 3rd one, not enough for a Cody Sun, given the way he's playing and frontlining as a Kog'Maw. Oh my God.
Yuck. We wanted to move you up a spot, Golden Guardians. You got the big win. You got the big W, but you're going to need to do a few more.
Soon enough.
I think they're ending with 2 on the split.
You're slowly turning us into believers. Looking good. This is the start of it, right? You know, Steph Curry had to start somewhere for Golden State, so this is where you're just building up, 1 win at a time.
Yeah, that's I don't know.
One Alawi cheese win at a time.
Yeah, I mean, Lola looked really good on there. It was nice seeing those guys happy because they got their first win. Let's go to EU.
Let's do it.
Another very interesting week in EU where a lot of people seem to beat everyone. I thought this was the week Rocket and Giants completely fall off the face of the earth and go boo all the way down the standings. But again, they continue to prove me wrong.
They held their own.
Pretty solid. Top of the standings, Vitality. You can't really argue anyone else. They had a 70-minute game almost against Rocket that they won because of a Varus TP, Unsealed Spellbook. What a great meta.
A lot of questions into that 70-minute win. Not their best of their 7 wins so far on this season. But yeah, no arguments here. Vitality with Jizuki, Mini Trupax, the rookie. They're all looking so great. This is a team that is anchored with their coach. Again, we bring it up a lot, Yamato Cannon. This guy, I think you can't underestimate the impact and veteran status that he has brought to this team and the way that they prepare. Team Vitality, #1, European power rankings. Get used to hearing that one.
And it looks like the old gods are coming. G2 and Fnatic both with another 2-0 week. They're up to 5-3. They're in spots 2 and 3. You throw G2 ahead. I just think they've looked a little bit more controlled in the majority of their games. They've had some fiestas, no doubt. I mean, that Shulka game was,
oh boy.
I don't know if I quite evolved that to a fiesta, but it was a crazy game that they definitely had a chance of losing.
Yeah, it's definitely, you know, if you're in the Vitality yellow Lamborghini, you're keeping that rear view mirror really close and looking back at who's coming up behind you, because the old guard is right there. G2 Esports, Fnatic, they are gunning for your top spot. I think that G2, you know, arguably were not as strong as Fnatic this weekend, but I still think that they are, you know, a better team overall. But I think that this is coming up again, as we talk about with, you know, a TSM C9 matchup heading into this weekend in North America. When you look on the European side, G2 Esports is definitely going to have a big week to take over Team Vitality if you ever want to be there in the #1 spot, because hey, they didn't look so great in their victories. They were victories and picking them up again, that 5-3 record, but I want to see more from the old guard before I start putting them ahead of Team Vitality.
Yeah, and G2 takes on Vitality in week 5. So
Big
it's going to go a long way in shaping the power rankings. Giants, I thought they'd slide down a lot. They slid down 1 spot because Fnatic were able to handle them pretty easily in their matchup, but Giants still come away with a 1-1 record, and they're still looking pretty solid.
Definitely still a team that has been able to produce and get the results they need to have to stay competitive here in the European LCS, and definitely one that, you know, heading towards the midpoint, would not have expected them to stay up there. So definitely some good, strong signs from them early so far.
The middle of the standings, we got a mess of teams at 4-4, but coming out on the top of them all is Rocket, because they played in that 70-minute mess against Vitality. They should have won that game.
They really should have. The TP Varus, come on, that's not fair.
And they destroyed Misfits. Here's the thing. The broadcast was saying they got a perfect game against Misfits. Misfits got a Rift Herald.
Yeah, that's fake news, not a perfect game.
Yeah, I don't think getting a Rift Herald, I think that ruins a perfect game.
That does. So. You got to keep it a complete 0 on one side on across the board. Sorry, guys, not a perfect game in our eyes.
Not a perfect game, but they played pretty much perfectly. That's why they're climbing up 3 spots into that 5th spot. Shulka, again, they probably could have beat G2. They maybe should have.
Definitely had a chance.
Busting out the LeBlanc. I mean, poof. That's an interesting champion to be playing in this meta, but he made it look good.
He was looking pretty good, but just, you know, just too close to getting nuked. Nuke Duck almost had it. Not enough, and again, Splice bringing up the rear here of the 4-4 teams. You just haven't seen what we want to see from what we know this team should be capable of with the roster pieces that they have. Just haven't been able to get everything working on the same page, and you feel like it's a lot of wasted potential.
Yeah, you're waiting, you're like, oh, this is gonna be where they prove what they're actually capable of. But I mean, Ottawamne's still not performing at the level we expect.
He's looking maybe like one of the worst top laners in Europe, which is something that I would not have even guessed in my darkest dreams here to come into this
bottom
split.
3, I would say. Yeah, definitely. And then 8th spot, look at this. That is a tumble.
Oh.
Down 6
Yikes.
spots.
The bunny rabbits falling down.
The rabbits have fallen down the rabbit hole. Alice in Wonderland. Oh, man.
This is the bad bunny hole, though. You don't want to go down.
You don't want to go down here. This is the upside down from Stranger Things. Misfits, again, they don't get perfect game by Rocket. They get a Rift Herald, so
yeah,
good job, guys.
That's worth something, I guess.
And then, listen, they had what people might have thought was a relatively easy schedule coming into week 4. Giants and Rocket get destroyed by Rocket, and Giants, I mean, they turn around that was a very even game, but Misfits had like a 10,000 gold lead almost in that game.
When you can't blow, you can't let that slip, you know.
Max Lore on Rengar, we'll get to him a little bit in a little bit,
man.
But he looked bad on the Rengar.
That is one bad kitty, and not a bad kitty in that it's demolishing and murdering all of your team. It's a bad kitty because that bad kitty is feeding and not getting any objectives for your team.
And Senkux continues to be a legitimate concern on that Misfit squad. If they want to be a top team contending for an EU LCS title, I think he's going to be a bit of a question mark, an issue for them.
Right, this was someone that we thought that, you know, would have big shoes to fill in stepping in for Power of Evil, but someone who could bring something else to the table for Misfits hasn't brought it to the table whatsoever so far. Quit holding out on your teammates. Bring it on.
Bottom 2, Unicorns of Love actually looked competitive in their games. That's why they're number 9. H2K doesn't look like they belong in the LCS. Maybe not even the challenger scene right now.
Oh.
I don't know what's going on there. I thought this team had playoff potential. They're lucky relegations are gone because they couldn't beat anyone right now.
Yeah, this is a team that you and I both are definitely wrong about our predictions coming into this season on what we thought H2K would be possible of. Unicorns of Love, congratulations. You're holding on to that 9th spot. You're doing okay in 9th. Woo. Only because H2K is such a dumpster fire, in my opinion. I don't know what they're thinking. They pick up Selfie, a guy that we've talked about with a lot of praise and that we are excited to see get another shot, and Selfie did okay. You know who did not do okay? Kadriel in the jungle was absolutely a mess. This guy absolutely brought you nothing that you wanted over, say, Santorin. It was not good.
Kadriel actually had 100% kill participation and 100% kill share for H2K in week 4-1.
Yeah,
they had 1 kill in 2 games.
Again, it's not like Santorin was some monster or doing special things. He was playing
just AFK.
He was playing pretty passive for H2K. But playing pretty passive was better than feeding and not absolutely doing anything. I'm sorry to be hard on Kadriel for this, but it was absolutely maybe one of the worst performances we've seen on the LCS stage. And it's one of those changes where you're like, you didn't have to make this change. Why? You could have, you know, running a Santorin and Selfie type of experiment at least for a week, that probably would have been better than switching Kadriel into off-roll jungle. I don't understand.
The team has said that's something Kadriel wanted to do. Is go to the
who
jungle,
cares what he wants to do because it's not what's best for the team.
Santorin not on the squad anymore, by the way. He's a free agent now. H2K is a mess.
A lot of questions for you, H2K.
I'm taking Golden Guardians in a best of series against H2K.
I would absolutely take them.
Let's get to some honors and reports. H2K, the whole team is getting a report there.
Report H2K's management. That's gone.
That's too easy. Let's start with honors in EU because we're just talking about it. And you got to go to G2, the man in the top lane. That is Wonder, the former Splice top laner. This guy is probably the best top laner in EU right now. 12 KDA last week, 80% kill participation, 879 damage a minute in 2 games on Gangplank.
I was gonna say, doing that in the top lane is something that's
a Gangplank.
Yeah, that's no feat to not, you know, be impressed about there. Wonder really had a great week and a really strong performance. And this is something that we talked about, you know, with G2, that their big carry is perks and everything like that. And, you know, maybe Jankos can get something going on here. But hey, It was Wonder that actually really stepped up his game this week and allowed them and really helped them get the victories that they do need to start racking up in this season. And so he's a guy that looking forward now, hopefully to next week, maybe he does provide them another outlet for victory. Definitely a really great week from him.
Yeah, him and Yankos both look pretty solid. Perks continues to be great. The only question mark still for G2 is that bot lane, because Hjarnan is still getting caught out of a position a lot. But I think Wonder's been the best performing top laner so far in EU.
It's definitely been a really strong performance, and last week definitely proved it. Getting our thumbs up, hey man.
Best KDA for a top laner, most damage, best CS difference. It's hard to argue.
Those are all good stats.
Who are we armoring from NA? What an excellent question. It's got to be the best support in NA right now. That is Smoothie from C9. You got to ban this guy off Alistair. Absolutely insane on that champion. 9.5 KD. Kill participation, nothing crazy. 76% for a support. 1.7 wards a minute. He's done a great job controlling vision, just being a voice for C9 and getting his teammates out of trouble on Tahm Kench this week.
Absolutely. That was a game where, you know what? Sneaky did not look the best that he's ever looked before.
0 kills on a Jinx.
Yeah, it was not looking so great, but it was Smoothie really performing for Cloud9. They had a great weekend, lots of strong performances. Licorice had a fantastic weekend for himself. Jensen was clapping people, but it absolutely has to go to Smoothie. This guy was a monster for Cloud9 and absolutely helped this team get what they needed to get done. Smoothie, and you bring it up, that Tahm Kench. Oh, do I hate going up against Tahm Kench. I would love to bench the Kench as many times as I can. Smoothie is exactly my nightmare on Tahm Kench. That man was a monster. Great work, Smoothie.
It is the infuriating era in the bottom lane with champions like Braum and Tahm Kench being picked pretty much every game. You can't do anything as an AD carry or other players against them.
This is why, the support I play with says, well, you just abandoned me in the bot lane. I'm like, I'm not abandoning you. I'm just not playing up against Tahm Kench and Alistair. I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, I'm AFK farming jungle creeps. Let's get to the reports from week 4 because there was a lot to choose from. Again, you could have picked anyone on H2K, but let's jump to EU. And we're going to go with Maxlore because Misfits looked not good at all, and Maxlore, no kills this week, 5 assists. That's it. Over 2 games, 0.8 KDA. That damage per minute is gross. And one of those games he was on Rengar.
As much as I hated Kadriel's performance for H2K in the jungle this weekend, there was arguably none worse than Maxlore's because Maxlore's, you actually expected something. You were expecting some performance, not only from him because he is a very talented jungler, but also from the Misfits because this is a team that should be finding themselves towards the top of the European power rankings, but again, just absolutely collapsed this week and find themselves towards the bottom of it. And Maxlore, sorry buddy, you're a big reason why they find themselves at the bottom. Not a good weekend for him.
Yeah, and it's still just crazy to me how clobbered they got by Roccat. I mean, the Giants game, it came down to kind of a toss-up. They get destroyed in the final team fight, close the game. But again, you had a 10K gold lead. You probably should have won that. So the collapse of Misfits is a mystery to me.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those times where you're like, oh, there's their enemy jungler picking up another kill. Must be nice to have a jungler that actually does something. It was just not a good weekend for Maxlore.
Wouldn't it be nice?
Hopefully bounces back next week and gets Misfits some of those wins that they need to climb up those rankings.
The team that dropped down the power rankings in NA was 100 Thieves. They had a great start to the split, but they haven't looked great the last couple of weeks, and neither has our boy Cody Sun. Again, he had some of the highest KDA in the first couple of weeks. This week, 1. Not bad. Down in both games at 15 minutes, and that damage per minute is only like 100 more than Maxlore, who was basically AFK in those games. Cody Sun busted out the Ezreal and the Tristana. The Ezreal, some of the team fights are just painful to watch.
Right.
He's just on the outskirts, maybe shooting a Q
Not
every
doing
now and
any
then.
type of impact. It's just, it's one of those ones where you're like, Twitch chat, they might be right. Cody Sun has turned into Cody Dunn. He is not getting anything done.
Don't trust Twitch chat.
It's just
don't
not good. I mean, this is someone, he showed a lot of bright signs at times with Immortals last year, but there were moments where you're like, what are you doing, buddy? You're an ADC. You can't be there. And we're talking about that get out of jail free card that Aphromoo gives. Well, it's not always up and available to be used. Not good enough. Cody Sun, you're holding back your team, buddy. Step it up.
I mean, it's He's still got a very young career. I know.
Absolutely. And I believe in Cody Sun getting better. That's why I want to challenge him here.
Yeah, I know people like to meme him after his flash at Worlds that he did, and he didn't play that well in groups for Immortals. But I mean, during last season, during the regular season, people were saying he was a top 2, at worst top 3 AD carry in the entire league. So he had a very bad week. No question about that. 100 Thieves had a bad week. I just don't like these Ezreal picks, man. Almost every game you're like, even when they have
feast or famine. Feast or famine.
There's never a feast. It's like famine or you're satisfied for 10 minutes.
The feast is if you're in the LCK and you're Teddy on Ezreal. Sure, That's the
Teddy
feast. Other than that.
Or Bang. But I don't know. In the LCS, it's just, even when these guys are ahead, Sven was pretty ahead on that Ezreal. It was underwhelming.
Yeah.
It was underwhelming. I don't like that pick.
Anyways, Cody Sun really is somebody that I think if 100 Thieves is ever going to find their way back into being, a playoff type of competition team, Cody Sun's really going to have to step up his game and not be so vulnerable on this team.
I believe he will. I believe in the Cody Sun to be better than he was this week. We talked about the Skarner picks, but it was the Pirate who was stealing the spotlight in the LCS this weekend. 18 of the 20 games that were played,
Crazy.
Gangplank was picked or banned. They nerfed Klepto to a degree, but I mean, you're seeing some teams have 2,000 or 3,000 gold leads, and almost all of that is a result of just the Gangplank from his Q and that Klepto. So he's an insane champion.
He can just deal so much damage later into the games with his barrels and everything like that, and just split push away. It's definitely a champion that I do not see leaving this meta. And again, one that you bring up, that that ultimate, that global ultimate is definitely something teams have loved to use. Definitely a champion that I don't see going away anytime soon.
Yeah, his damage output is insane. He's got the utility, even wave clear with his ultimate where he can globally affect other lanes. I don't see how, even some of these matchups, you saw this Vlad Gangplank kind of go both ways.
Right.
Flame was handling Licorice, but earlier, Licorice was destroying Impact. Yeah, he got some pressure earlier on, but I mean, this is just a dream for top lane. It's a dream meta for top laners right now because it's the junglers who are on tank duty every game.
Right, and it's even a champion that, when you talk about Gangplank, that, and even like, a counter that might come in, such as a Gnar, is never really all that scary of a matchup, one that you can still definitely handle and have some impact for team fights. So I think that Gangplank isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
So enjoy getting blasted with the cannon.
Get used to that smelly pirate.
In the bottom lane. He ain't going anywhere. Make sure you send in your questions. We're going to get to them in just a minute. But first, we got to do the handshakes of the week.
Oh, yeah.
This week, it's a special one. It's not exactly a handshake. It's a combo of a handshake and a celebration, courtesy of that wonderful, wonderful fiesta of Team Vitality and Roccat. I mean, Vitality, they lose their mind after pretty much any game. But Mini Trupax, the game's not even over. He's already celebrating and talking smack, just standing still, auto-attacking as that teleport Varus.
Hand off the keyboard, hand off the mouse, just watching it happen.
Yeah, he's loving it. And whenever you hear Jizuki laugh, he just sounds like, it warms your heart. It's such a high-pitched laugh from such a manly-looking man.
Yeah, the Italian stallion.
His laugh is fantastic. How can you not love this team right now? They're just so fiery and so passionate. But this clip doesn't end here. Crushing loss for Roccat. Earlier in the split, you'll remember Norscarin, after a big game for Roccat, in the middle of the game, he dabbed on the player cam. They caught it. So Team Vitality during these handshakes here play a little memento to shout out to the jungler, to Norscarin. Starting off with Jizuki. He dabs on him, and so does Jack.
Kill him.
Oh boy.
I
I absolutely love it. Let me chill that down. Mini Trupax is blocking the first one, but Jack Troll's here is absolutely
look
fantastic.
At that perfect execution on the dab. Loving it. Still showing the respect, getting those handshakes in.
Listen,
that one's good.
I hated dabbing when it came out, but now it's so stupid and annoying that I've come to love it.
Yeah.
Any sporting event, you go on the Jumbotron, the first thing anyone does is dab.
Throwing the dab.
I've seen like 4-year-olds on this Jumbotron dabbing on people.
It's a phenomenon, man. I can't explain it.
It's hilarious.
I don't like to see a lot of dabs either, but I tell you what, after a 70-minute game,
you deserve it.
You dab all you want.
Yeah. And the fact that they're kind of chirping Norscarin with it is fantastic. I love Vitality, man.
Just some friendly banter, Just some banter, boys.
Banter. I love what Vitality's doing right now. Let's get to some questions, because we know there's going to be some beauties plenty of stuff coming up in week 5. And week 4, every week so far has delivered in the LCS. Matthias Kolnitz, what do you think of Sven? He looked a lot better this week.
Yeah, I think Sven has been very solid for TSM. He has definitely been a guy that I think when you look back on how their performances had started towards the beginning of the split, you know what, maybe one instance where you can say, oh, his positioning on Kog'Maw there actually was not very good and actually ended up ending the game for against TSM. But other than that, I think Sven has been very solid for TSM and has had the impact that you would want from him in the bot lane. And it's definitely been a guy that I think has done what you've asked from him. When you look at that game that they lost against Clutch Gaming, Sven was basically perfect up until he died there at the very end of the match in that last team fight that ended up going up against them. And then you saw in the game against CLG where he's perfectly setting up the waves and everything like that when they're pressuring around Elder Dragon. So I think that this is not Elder Dragon, but one of the dragons. Definitely have liked what I've seen from Sven so far.
A couple of 100 Thieves questions from Eddie Torrey. What do you think the future of 100 Thieves? Can they turn it around? And can we at least agree that their YouTube game is too good? Their YouTube game is good. The heist,
YouTube game, very strong.
That'd be an interesting episode for this week when they give Golden Guardians their very first
I was going
win.
to say, I mean, it's definitely something where when you talk about, and that was one thing we actually flamed the Golden Guardians for before, is that, hey, you're bringing up the bottom of the pack here at the LCS, and you're not even pumping out some content to get, fans on your side. 100 Thieves has absolutely been the roster that you want for that. They have been pumping out some fantastic pieces to help you feel comfortable with the team and feel more of a fan of this roster. Definitely have really liked that type of game from them, their social media game. Now their game on the Rift has left a little bit to be desired for them, especially recently. I don't think it's too late for this roster to find their way and to get these performances back up to where they need to be. But I do think that this is, again, something where you're seeing maybe this is, kind of the maximum potential for this roster to be kind of around that middle tier. And if everything goes our way, we can start punching up. But other than that, I don't know what else to tell you about 100 Thieves.
I mean, based on what I've seen out of Clutch, 100 Thieves might be the outside looking in come playoff time. Do you think Vitality can go through MSI without dropping a single game?
Whoa.
Absolutely. I don't think Jizuki will die. I think Mini Trupax will get 3 pentakills.
500 CS per game. 20-minute games, 500 CS.
Listen, I love the hype around this team. It's kind of got that vibe of when Mike Young first came on to P1 and everyone was like, they're joking. He's the best jungler of all time. Jizuki, best mid laner of all time. Vitality's the best team of all time.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen Jizuki and Faker in the same room at the same time?
I have, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was
hanging out with him the other night.
I was hoping right there. I was like, I got him.
Yeah.
Same person. Nah.
I think they have a chance to go to MSI. They'll drop a game.
They definitely, they definitely have a chance to get to MSI. They're in the driver's seat right now. They get to MSI, they're losing a game. I won't say that they'll lose 2 games, but they're losing a game at MSI if they make it there.
Just one.
That's a guarantee. Take that one to the bank.
Which team do you think is the best out of all the 4-4 EU LCS teams? I was riding them high in the preseason. It's been a bit of a rocky start, but I'm still all aboard that Schalke train, that Schalke tank. I think they'll be the best. It's tough to not say Misfits, but I might go with Schalke.
See, that's what I want to say Misfits, and a lot of my belief is still in Misfits, that they can turn it around and have their performance and get right back into it. But I'm going to have to go with Schalke. That is definitely, of the 4-4 teams, the team that I think has shown this split the most promise of pushing their way into that top tier. And I think I'm definitely going to have to join Eric on the Schalke train.
There's plenty of room.
Is it roomy train?
Oh, yeah. They got beds. They got bunk beds, believe it or not.
Wow,
they got
it's a
buffets.
sleeper car.
It's a sleeper car. It's a fun time.
All aboard the Schalke train.
Do you believe Vitality will fall down in summer or keep being as good? Summer's a long ways away. I mean, there's still a chance they implode in spring.
There's also a lot of changes that can happen for other teams and even Vitality themselves heading into summer. I think that's a little bit too far away to look for.
You got to see these guys in a best-of series.
Yes, I think that's where we want to get to, definitely, to see. They've shown that, hey, they're going to be a threat to reckon with for best-of-ones, but definitely let's pump the brakes and wait a little bit when we talk about summer results.
Who do you think is the best top jungle duo in NA right now? Ooh, I mean, I think you got to go with Huni Dardoch.
Huni Dardoch is arguably, I think, the most skilled matchup right now, and definitely one that they've shown some synergy working together very well. Right now, I'm really, really loving this Licorice and Svenskeren duo. I think that Svenskeren doesn't spend all of his time up there with Licorice to help him out, but this has definitely been one of the duos that has performed arguably the best so far as how they've actually done in-game and the results of those games. That I think that Licorice and Svenskeren is definitely a duo that you can't be doubting when you talk about top lane and jungle synergy.
No surprise it's the top 2 teams that might have the best one, because there's a lot of carry top laners and people are playing around that top lane.
You see that? You see how Licorice did against Impact, and hey man,
clobbered.
Hard to answer anything else.
Here's a good one. Do you see Clutch Gaming swapping out Moon for Lyra?
Ooh.
Thought no one would ever say that.
It's possible actually now. This is something that I, given how I expected Lyra to be playing, I was going to say that no way, not going to happen. And that was nothing against Moon, who is someone who I thought that just got kind of lost in the roster shuffles around here, and is someone that had enough talent, in my opinion, to really be a starting jungler in the NALCS, and is definitely one that we've seen him perform very well so far in the Academy series. I don't think it's out of the question. I think that this is a roster that I expect Clutch Gaming to really stick with for the most part. But I don't think it's out of the question given how well Moon has performed and how poorly Lyra has looked with this roster.
I just want to say, Lyra, he looked AFK on Skarner. Wasn't really in the game. On that Kha'Zix in their second game of the week, he looked much more like the Lyra we saw throughout a lot of 2017. So I'm not giving up on the guy yet.
Might help to put him on more aggressive champions.
It's a rough meta for him. For guys like him and Mike Young to just be on tank duty.
He certainly looked like first-time Skarner. Yeah. He's like, please no flame, first-time Skarner.
Yeah, I'm going to wait till 40 minutes to ult.
Yeah, oh man.
Twitter question. You should start a segment that analyzes the Jizuki and Mini Trupac's post-game hugs. They range from excited outbursts to the most recent, filled with gratitude and a touch of thank you. You saved us. That's a pretty good idea for a segment. That's basically what our handshakes are. It's either Rick Fox or Vitality. That's what it's going to be going forward. But we should get down into the nitty-gritty, because even when they have a 27-minute stomp, these guys are fired up.
Oh, yeah. I think that Jizuki and Mini Trupax is quickly becoming one of the best League of Legends bromances so far. Certainly one of the best in EU, and it's possibly becoming one of the best in the entire community. Definitely love seeing it.
I think Jizuki, it looks like he gives the best hugs in EU. Yeah. I want a hug from Jizuki.
Looks like a nice, like meaty type of hug, like that one that you can just really sink into.
Yeah, he sticks his head under your armpit. Just what you want.
It's a meaningful hug.
This one's right for you. Is Blossom legit?
Oh, I think Blossom is definitely legit. Is Blossom perfect? No. Is Blossom polished? No. But Blossom is definitely exactly the type of player that SKT needed to bring them out of their funk and everything that was going wrong with this roster and the players before. This is a guy who is just bringing this type of urgency and play style and engages that we haven't seen from SKT at all this split, and definitely now that we're seeing it in the way that this team performs, we're seeing a lot more positive results for this team. I think Blossom has when you talk about Blossom, this is the guy that's showing the type of performances that people were expecting and wanting to see from Peanut when he signed on with SKT, which is a lot and a heavy expectation, but these are the types of aggressive and strong play that we're seeing from Blossom so far that have me a strong believer of him and this reborn SKT.
Reborn with some youth in there. If you have to make a top 5 AD carry rank from NA and EU combined, what would your picks be? I'm taking Reckless and Hans Sama from EU.
Yeah, you have to take those guys. Those guys are absolutely the top. Can't go elsewhere.
Probably give me Sneaky.
Yeah, I guess you'd want him.
2 spots left. There's a lot of guys left. You got to take Sven, right?
You'd think, given his performances,
is it based on this split or the past? Right now? I mean, right now Sven probably hasn't been a top-tier guy that we're used to.
And then, Double Lips looked good. But and then after this week was definitely not a good week for him, bringing up again that whole team fight where he spent on the other side of a wall with his Kog'Maw W active, which was great. 5 seconds later, it's off and you're not attacking anybody. Tough question though. Definitely, I can tell you one thing: I'm not putting Cody's son there.
Oh, come on, my boy Cody. Don't call me Cody's son. Cody's son. Do you think the difference of skill between EU and NA is as big as we expected it to be? I mean, which side did we expect to be
I was going
more
to say,
skilled?
what do you mean as far as the skill? Because I've seen a lot of skill on both sides. I don't know what you're talking about.
Not skill. I think
We're gonna
both regions are still figuring out their
pump
new
the brakes on
rosters.
NA EU until we get the Rift Rivals, guys. Then
That's
you're
right.
going to see who's the real champion, because we all know Rift Rivals. That's what matters more than Worlds.
Absolutely, because
NA won
the
last
West
year,
wins.
so that's
the West always wins, boys.
The West always wins. Yeah.
Can we consider Fevivin being best mid NA since he solo carries his team all the time? I'm still putting him behind guys like Jensen, but Fevivin, I'm slotting him top 3.
Yeah, I put him in the top 3 as well.
Jensen, Bjerg,
And that's
Febby.
the thing, and this is, we talked about it last week. I want to throw Pobelter in there, but this was not a weekender performance that lets you put Pobelter in that top 3. And you know who definitely had the performance that lets you put him in the top 3? Fevivin. Fevivin is absolutely one of these guys, and someone who we talked about when he was coming over to North America, is one of these mid laners that brings that star power and that type of potential that a Jensen and a Bjergsen does. And I think so far he has absolutely stood up to that question and answered it with an emphatic yes. Yes, I am an elite mid laner. Put me into that top 3.
Better smiter, Gilius or Mike Young?
Mike Young is a good smiter. I'm going to put that out there. And he's a good jungler. Reddit, everyone needs to relax. It was an awful game. It was. It was arguably some of the worst neutral objective management that I've ever seen in an LCS game.
Can I just say those two human beings are polar opposites?
Yeah,
Gilius
that too.
and Mike
Yeah.
Young. Mike Young will not trash talk a single human
Anybody.
being. Gilius will trash talk
Put anyone in a
an
dumpster.
old
man.
lady crossing the street.
I'm not going to answer that question because I think both of those junglers are good at smites. I see what you're doing there. Mike Young hopefully never has a performance quite as bad with his smite. I don't understand it. You know, you're on the Sejuani basically, and you've got your E plus the smite, and at that point in the game, that's like over 1,000 damage combo. How do you not get it? I don't understand there.
A couple more SKT questions. People must love the jacket. Will
wonder-
SKT win spring? And how legit are they? If not legit, what do they have to prove? What do they have to do?
I don't think that they'll
3
win
and
spring.
5 isn't legit, by the way.
I don't think they're going to win spring. I think that's something where I would love to put on this jacket and tell you they're going to win spring. I don't think so. I think it's a little too late. Don't think that this team is going to have enough come playoff time, right, to run through the gauntlet, given the position that I know that they're going to find themselves in, having been set behind here with this 5-game losing streak. But I will tell you that I answered before, I am big on Blossom here. This is definitely the type of champion that I think, a champion type of player that SKT really needed to change their fortunes around. And we're seeing the way that that's impacted the rest of this team. You know, there was just so much pressure on Faker and the bot lane that was underperforming, arguably, that bot lane before to get something done that, you know, because the jungler and top lane positions were just so subpar given the rest of the LCK. And I think now you found an answer to give you a bit of a rock solid option in the top lane. And then I also with Blossom just giving you what you need there. Now, as far as what they need to prove and what they need to get better at, they need to take down some of these top level teams. We saw that with KSV in a very convincing fashion, and especially one where you went up against Haru as the jungler in the first game, and then you had Ambition coming in after having seen a whole game of understanding Blossom's passing and everything, and you smacked him even harder. So I want to see those type of performances. I need to see SKT stand toe-to-toe with the Kingzone Dragon X's of the LCK and take them down. That's what I need to see before I'd be willing to tell you that they'd be winning spring. But I will say, I'm feeling a lot better about this team and their position and how they're going to advance towards Worlds now than I did 2 weeks ago.
Absolutely. How would you improve the Golden Guardians? First things first, use the import slots, man. I'd take anyone out of that lineup except for contracts. Maybe you keep Lorlo.
I like what you're thinking. I like what they're thinking, right? NA the best.
I don't like what they're thinking there. NA's not the best. Import, man.
It's the thought that counts behind it that I like.
The thought is wrong.
But yeah, you're right. The thought is absolutely wrong. You need to be bringing in talent over these, sentimental ideas of having this NA roster. I think that's absolutely where I would start to improve your results there with this team.
Fepoven said, I really want to go to Worlds with an NA team and show the world that NA is actually a good region. Nice meme. Do you think that's possible? Could Fepoven go to World and prove that NA is a good region?
I think so. I think that Fepoven, again, this is a team that when we talk about them, they have to have their performances. Fepoven is going to be that guy. And if they want to make it to Worlds, whether it's Lyra or Moon in that jungler spot, they're going to have someone step up and play a lot better than what they've had so far. This team in its current performance, no, they're not making Worlds and being able to do that. But does this team have the potential and ability to play up into the level of getting into Worlds and actually getting something done there? I think that's a definite possibility with how strong their star power and their carry from Fepoven can be. But right now, I would tell you, no, I don't think that this team is going to be making it as NA's representative for Worlds.
What do you think about the rebirth of EU with all the rookies? Everyone leaves for NA from EU, and they just continue to pump out good young talent.
You've got a great player base all across Europe, and again, they're proving it with all the talent that they step up to this EU LCS stage, and they're proving it time and time again. Definitely something that's very impressive and something that you have to take your hat off for Europe, and it's something that they've shown that they can do, and I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon.
Has the EU LCS teams become weaker, especially this season due to so many players on top EU teams going to NA? I'm struggling to find the EU LCS entertaining. Watch Vitality games, man.
Watch those ones, man.
Those are entertaining. You don't know
Absolutely.
most of the players. Maybe you know Cabo Shard, maybe you know Gilius.
Get in some of their personalities that these guys have. Like, you might not like Gilius, but you can't argue that that is an absolute villain type of personality that he's got going on there. Whether you love him or hate him, he makes you want to watch Vitality's matches. I think that's definitely the team that I would start with, whether you like him or not. That's the team to watch.
Overflowing with personality. Watch them.
Right. Whether you want to see, Gilius get absolutely smacked and humbled, or you want to see, the Italian Stallion and Mini Trupax popping off, there are both sides of the coin you can play with Vitality, and that is only one of the teams that I think is so incredibly interesting to watch in Europe, and definitely would be where I'd start to recommend. If you're not thinking it's exciting, you're not watching Vitality's games.
Yeah, and anyone seems to be able to beat anyone except for H2K and UOL.
And if you want to keep track of dumpster fires, keep track of H2K and what they're doing.
Don't watch those. You'll never watch EU again.
Don't watch their games.
No.
But keep track of their dumpster moves.
Deft and Mata or Deftly and Matt? I mean, Deftly and Matt have won a game more recently.
Have Deft and Mata ever won a game in NA?
That's right.
So, I don't know.
Easy answer.
Easy
answer. Do you think TSM is honestly a top 3 team? Even analysts bring up them when talking about top tier teams. Pretty sure by the end of the split, they're going to be a top 3 team. Come playoffs.
I'm very confident in that this team has more than enough talent.
Look at it on paper.
And they'll get it together. And then, I mean, not even on paper, even just looking at the roster and then talking about their coach Song. And then you've got Lust Boy helping out with the bot lane as well. And then, of course, even Parth is still helping around with the coaching staff. There's just too much talent on the TSM team alone that they, yes, will absolutely be in the top 3. You've got arguably the best bot lane in the West. You've got Bjergsen, you've got Hanser. So much going for you. And then you just need Mike Young to play up to his average level. Well, and then you're a top 3 team.
He doesn't even have an average level yet.
His average level's Challenger because he's Mike Young.
Oh, you heard it here. Mike Young boosted into the LCS.
Just don't watch him at Baron. Just don't watch that.
Don't watch him at Baron. Okay, 2 more questions, then we'll get out of here. What do you think about KSV's recent results?
Ooh.
SKT 2-0. Is it time to panic?
I don't think it's time to panic.
It's not time to panic.
They're still more than talented enough and everything else to get done. This was just something where I think that you know what? I think they took their pedal off the gas a little bit for the SKT match, which is certainly something you should never be doing against a SKT and a team that has Faker in the mid lane. You should never do that. But I think that what you saw from them was just kind of being underprepared for what Blossom and this new type of style that SKT was going to bring from what they had shown earlier in the LCK spring split. I think that KSV would not be a team that I'd be concerned for, and they'll find their way into a good playoff spot before.
Okay, we'll get out of here on this one. It's an interesting one. Fred Tholarp, if you got the chance to change the format of a major tournament, Worlds MSI All-Stars, what would you change and why? And if you wouldn't, why wouldn't you change anything? I might add more teams to MSI.
Love to add more teams. That'd be a good change. You know what I'm going to do? Because I'm a dirty Western League of Legends fan.
That you are.
That I would change Worlds to be away from best of ones. I would, now that we've gone to best of ones in our
now the West is training for it, man.
Get rid of it. Go to the best of threes. I can't tell you how many times watching Worlds you're just like, man, if only TSM were playing best of threes.
Do best of twos.
They'd be making it out of here, no problem. So yeah, as a Western fan, I'd be changing the opening group stage to be not best of ones to maybe up our chances of getting out in week 2.
I know All-Stars got some backlash this last year. I like that format. Keep the 1v1, keep the rest of the tournament somewhat serious. I liked what they were doing there. No more of that fire and ice garbage. That's for Game of Thrones, man.
Yeah, I would agree with you that one big time. I definitely enjoyed this year's All-Star format a little bit more weight to it, right? It's still fun. It's still all for laughs and giggles, but hey, maybe, you know, let's see how everyone does a little bit more.
See what everyone does. But I mean, I think most of the major tournaments are pretty good, the format. You just need more of them.
Yeah.
You need more international
Actually,
tournaments.
You know what? I would let Gigabyte Marines into every international tournament, no matter
That's
what.
true. A bye right to the finals.
Always make everything interesting.
Bye to the finals. Same with Golden Guardians. They get into every tournament too.
Yeah.
Maybe a tournament for the worst teams in the leagues.
I would actually love to see, like, you take the top 3 teams from each region goes to Worlds, bottom 3 teams goes to anti-Worlds.
Anti-Worlds. Upside down worlds.
Yeah.
2 Stranger Things references. Not bad. That's all the time for today's episode. Thank you so much for sending in all your questions. I know we didn't get to all of them, but we are a little pressed for time, but we do appreciate you sending them in. And if you tweet at SC Esports, we'll answer your questions that we didn't get to from this show. But that's it. We'll be back Wednesday, 2 p.m. for 5v5 Live, myself and Mark, to preview some of the big matches.
I believe Wednesday is going to be Valentine's Day, and Eric has promised me that if I come in cosplayed as Heartseeker Varus, he's going to come in and cosplay as Sweetheart Zaya. So don't want to miss that one, guys.
Why wouldn't we be Zaya Rakan?
It's questionable.
Heartseeker Varus is also the best skin in the game.
I've just been spamming a lot of Varus, so that's why I want to
totally forgot it's Valentine's Day, so we'll be your Valentine on Wednesday afternoon at 2 p.m. to preview some of the LCS matches coming up on the weekend and maybe eat some chocolate. Maybe, just maybe. But we'll be back Wednesday, and we'll see you guys then.